The lawyer's office felt like a tomb. Michael and Patricia sat across from me, their faces cold as stone. The old will was spread across the mahogany table like a death sentence. Patricia's perfectly manicured finger tapped against the document. "As you can see, Arlene," Michael said, his voice dripping with fake sympathy, "everything goes to Dad's actual family. The house, the business, the investments, all of it." I stared at the paper, my hands trembling. The will was dated 15 years ago, before William and I even met. Patricia leaned forward with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "You'll need to be out by the weekend," she said. "We're putting the house on the market Monday morning." My throat felt like sandpaper. "But William always said—" "What Dad said doesn't matter now," Michael interrupted. "What matters is what's legal, and legally you have no claim to any of this." The lawyer, their lawyer, nodded sympathetically. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Patterson, but the will is quite clear." I sat there in silence, my heart pounding so loud I was sure they could hear it. They had no idea what was coming. Back at the house, my house, the one William and I shared for 8 beautiful years, I could hear them whispering in the kitchen. I pressed my ear to the door. "She actually thought she'd inherit everything," Patricia laughed. "God, she's pathetic. Dad never loved her like he loved Mom," Michael added. "She was just convenient, someone to cook and clean while he got older." My chest tightened. William had been gone only 3 days, and they were already tearing apart our life together. I heard the clink of glasses. "To getting our family home back," Patricia announced, "and to finally being free of that woman," Michael replied. Their laughter echoed through the walls. I backed away from the door, my vision blurring with unshed tears. They thought I was broken. They thought I was defeated. But they didn't know William like I did. They didn't know the man who held my hand every morning over coffee, who called me his evening star, who promised me I'd never be alone again. They had no idea what William had planned for this exact moment. Let me tell you who I really am. My name is Arlene Thomas Patterson, and I'm 68 years old. I spent 30 years as a librarian before I retired. I loved organizing books, helping students find exactly what they needed, creating order from chaos. I met William 3 years after my first husband died. He'd lost his wife too, and we found each other at a grief support group. We were both broken people who slowly helped each other heal. William had 2 adult children from his first marriage. Michael was 42, a real estate agent who always seemed to need money. Patricia was 39, married to a lawyer, living in a house twice the size of ours. They never accepted me. Not really. I was always Dad's friend, or the woman Dad's seeing. Even after William and I married, they introduced me as our stepmother, with air quotes and rolling eyes. But William loved me. I felt it in every good morning kiss, every shared laugh, every quiet evening reading together. He made me feel like I belonged somewhere again. Now he was gone, and they wanted to erase me completely. I walked into the living room and froze. Michael was wrapping William's favorite reading lamp in newspaper. Patricia stood by the bookshelf, pulling down the photo albums. "What are you doing?" I whispered. "Sorting what belongs to Dad's real family," Patricia said without looking up. "You can keep your personal items, of course, but anything that was his needs to come with us." Michael hefted a box labeled Dad's Books. These weren't just William's books. Half of them were mine, ones we'd shared and discussed over dinner. Patricia was now examining our wedding photo. "I suppose you'll want this," she said, handing it to me like she was doing me a favor. "These are my things too," I said, my voice stronger than I felt. "Were your things," Michael corrected. "Now they're coming home where they belong." I watched them pack away 8 years of my life. The ceramic owl William bought me for my birthday. The throw pillows I'd made for the couch. Even the coffee mugs we used every morning. "We'll be back tomorrow to finish," Patricia announced as they left with 3 boxes. I stood alone in our half-empty home, surrounded by the ghosts of our life together. That night, I couldn't cry. The tears felt frozen somewhere deep inside my chest, trapped behind a wall of shock and disbelief. I wandered through the house like a ghost, touching surfaces that suddenly felt foreign. In the bathroom, William's toothbrush still sat in the holder. His reading glasses lay folded on his nightstand. But everywhere else, the spaces where our shared memories lived were growing empty. I ended up in his study, the one room Michael and Patricia hadn't touched yet. William's desk sat exactly as he'd left it. His fountain pen, the one I'd given him for our first anniversary, lay next to a half-finished crossword puzzle. The leather chair still smelled like his cologne. I sat down and closed my eyes, trying to feel him there with me, trying to hear his voice telling me everything would be okay. "I don't know how to fight them," I whispered to the empty room. "I don't know how to prove I belonged with you." The silence felt deafening, but then my hand brushed against something under a stack of papers, an envelope. Cream-colored, with my name written in William's careful handwriting. My heart stopped. My hands shook as I opened the envelope. Inside was a letter, 3 pages long, written in William's familiar script. The date at the top made my breath catch, 6 months before he died. "My dearest Arlene," it began. "If you're reading this, then I'm gone, and I suspect Michael and Patricia have shown you that old will. I'm sorry, sweetheart. I knew they might do this to you." Tears finally came, hot and fast, blurring his words. I wiped my eyes and kept reading. "You were never just convenient to me. You were my second chance at happiness. You brought light back into my life when I thought I'd lost it forever. I want you to know that before I tell you what I've done." My heart hammered against my ribs. "Last year, I updated my will. Everything. The house, the business, all of it goes to you. The children don't know. I kept the old will in the safe so they wouldn't ask questions, but the real one is with my lawyer, Harold Henderson. You'll find his card in the desk drawer." I could barely breathe. William had protected me. Even in death, he was still taking care of me. "Be brave, my evening star. Stand in the truth." I found Mr. Henderson's business card exactly where William promised. My hands trembled as I dialed his number. It was past 9 o'clock, but he answered on the second ring. "Mrs. Patterson," he said warmly. "I've been expecting your call." "The children showed me an old will," I managed to say. "They think—" "I know exactly what they think," Lefke interrupted gently. "William warned me this might happen. Can you come to my office tomorrow morning? We have quite a bit to discuss." I barely slept that night. Every creak of the house made me think Michael and Patricia were back to take more of our things. But mostly, I kept reading William's letter, memorizing every word. The next morning, Mr. Henderson's office felt completely different from the lawyer's office where Michael and Patricia had ambushed me. This place was warm, filled with family photos and comfortable chairs. "William updated his will 13 months ago," Mr. Henderson explained, sliding documents across his desk. "He left you everything, the house, his construction business, all investments and bank accounts. He was very specific about his wishes." I stared at the papers, William's signature dark and decisive at the bottom. "Why didn't he tell them?" I asked. Mr. Henderson's expression grew sad. "He hoped they'd surprise him, that they'd treat you with kindness after he was gone. He wanted to believe the best of them. But they'd failed that test spectacularly. Mr. Henderson advised me to stay quiet about the real will for now. Let them show their true colors," he said. "Document everything they do and say. The court will want to see their behavior." So I went home and watched and listened and remembered every cool word. When Michael and Patricia returned that afternoon with more boxes, I said nothing. I watched them pack William's favorite coffee mug, the one that read, "World's Best Husband." I watched Patricia stuff our wedding album into a garbage bag. "You know," Michael said, taping up a box, "Dad would probably want you to have some money to get started somewhere else. We're not heartless." "How much?" I asked quietly. "5,000 should be plenty," Patricia said. "That's very generous, considering you're not actually family." $5,000. Out of an estate worth over $2 million. "You're being too kind," I said, and I meant it. Their greed was going to make the court's decision very easy. That evening, I started a journal. Every insult, every stolen item, every moment they tried to erase me from William's life. Mr. Henderson was right. The truth needed witnesses. The worst part came at William's memorial dinner. His sister hosted it at her house, and the whole family gathered to share memories. I sat at the far end of the table, invisible. Michael stood up with his wine glass. "I want to toast Dad," he announced. "He was an amazing father who built a successful business from nothing. He gave us everything, and now we'll honor his legacy by keeping his life's work in the family where it belongs." Everyone clinked glasses. Then Patricia stood. Dad loved this family so much, she said, looking directly at me. He always put family first, real family. Some people might stick around hoping for money, but we know Dad's true wishes. The room fell silent. Heat crept up my neck as every eye turned to me. Patricia's smile was poisonous. Of course, we understand Arlene is going through a difficult transition, she continued. Moving can be so stressful, especially when you're starting over at her age. Nervous laughter rippled around the table. I wanted to disappear into my chair. Don't worry, Arlene, Michael added. We'll make sure you land on your feet. Like I was a charity case. Like I was disposable. Later that night, Patricia left her phone on the kitchen counter while she went to the bathroom. A text notification popped up on the screen. Before I could look away, I saw it was from a group chat called Operation Cleanup. My stomach twisted. I glanced around, then quickly read the messages. Michael. She's taking this better than expected, barely fighting back. Good. The sooner she's gone, the sooner we can sell the house. I already called 3 realtors. Think she'll make trouble about the business? What can she do? She has no legal standing. Dad was smart enough not to put her on any paperwork. My hands clenched into fists. Another message popped up. Found her old wedding dress in the closet. Should I donate it or just throw it away? Trash. Who wants a used wedding dress from a second marriage? Done. It's in the dumpster behind Walmart. My wedding dress. The one William had cried when he saw me wearing it. The one I'd planned to be buried in someday, so we could be together forever. They'd thrown it away like garbage. I drove to Walmart at midnight, digging through the dumpster like a madwoman. My wedding dress was there, stuffed into a black garbage bag with coffee grounds and rotting food. The delicate lace was stained, the pearl buttons scattered. I held the ruined dress against my chest and finally broke down completely. 8 years of marriage reduced to trash. 8 years of love dismissed as worthless. But as I cried, William's voice echoed in my memory. You're stronger than you know, Evening Star. Don't let anyone dim your light. I drove home with the dress in my passenger seat. At home, I gently washed what I could save and folded it carefully in tissue paper. Some stains wouldn't come out, but it was still mine. Still ours. The next morning, Michael called. We need to discuss the timeline, he said. Patricia found a buyer already interested in the house. They want to see it this weekend. This weekend? My voice cracked. I know it's fast, but the market's hot right now. Dad would want us to get the best price. No, I thought. Dad would want you to rot in hell for what you're doing to me. I understand, I said instead. Patricia arrived Friday afternoon with legal papers. Eviction notice, she explained. Not unkindly, but not kindly either. Just a formality. You have until Sunday to vacate. 48 hours. After 8 years of marriage, 8 years of making this house a home, they were giving me 48 hours. The locks will be changed Monday morning, she continued, for security purposes, while the house is on the market. I looked around our living room, the empty shelves where our books used to be, the bare walls where our photos once hung. They'd already erased most of our life together. I'll be ready, I said quietly. Patricia paused at the door. Arlene, I want you to know this isn't personal. It's just business, Dad's business. But it was personal. It was the most personal thing in the world. That night, I called Mr. Henderson. They're kicking me out Sunday. I told him. Perfect timing, he said. I'll file the real will with probate court Monday morning. They'll get their summons by Wednesday. How do you feel about staying in a hotel for a few days? Like I'm about to watch karma work its magic, I replied. For the first time in weeks, I smiled. Saturday night, I cooked William's favorite meal one last time in our kitchen. Pot roast with carrots and potatoes, cornbread with honey butter, apple pie from scratch. The smells filled the house with memories of Sunday dinners and quiet celebrations. I set 2 places at the table, just like always. William's chair sat empty, but I could almost see him there, smiling at me across the table. This is it, honey, I whispered to his empty chair. Tomorrow they think they win. But you're still taking care of me, aren't you? I ate slowly, savoring every bite. After dinner, I walked through each room, saying goodbye to the places where we'd been happiest. The kitchen where we'd shared morning coffee. The living room where we'd watched old movies. The bedroom where he'd held me every night. In his study, I sat in his leather chair one more time. The fountain pen still lay on the desk. I picked it up and wrote on a piece of his stationery. They tried to erase me, William. But love doesn't die with paperwork. See you soon, my darling. I left the note on his desk and walked out the front door for the last time. The hotel room was small but clean. I sat on the bed with William's letter in my hands, reading it again. Mr. Henderson had assured me everything was ready. The real will was filed. The court date was set. All I had to do was wait. Monday morning, my phone started ringing. Michael first. Arlene, what the hell is this court summons about? Some probate hearing? I'd practiced this conversation. I don't know, Michael. Maybe there was a mistake with the paperwork. This better not be you trying to cause trouble, he warned. Patricia called an hour later, her voice shrill. Did you hire a lawyer? Did you try to contest the will? I can't afford a lawyer, I said truthfully. Mr. Henderson was working for William's estate, not for me personally. Then what is this about? She demanded. Maybe your father left some instructions you didn't know about, I suggested innocently. The silence on the other end was delicious. That's impossible, she finally said. We have his will. I guess we'll find out at the hearing, I replied. Wednesday arrived, gray and drizzly. Perfect weather for what was about to happen. I dressed carefully in my best black dress and William's favorite pearl necklace. I wanted to look dignified when their world collapsed. The courthouse was old and imposing. I arrived early and sat in the back row, watching people file in. Michael and Patricia arrived 20 minutes late, looking annoyed and overdressed. They had their lawyer with them, a nervous-looking man who kept checking his briefcase. They spotted me and whispered urgently to each other. Patricia's face was red with anger. They'd probably spent the last 3 days tearing apart William's office, looking for any clue about what was happening. Mr. Henderson entered through a side door, carrying a thick folder. He nodded at me slightly, then took his place at the front of the courtroom. The judge was a stern-looking woman with silver hair. She called the court to order, and suddenly it was real. This was happening. We're here to address the estate of William James Patterson, she announced. Michael and Patricia straightened in their seats, confident smiles on their faces. They had no idea what was coming. The judge opened the folder Mr. Henderson had provided. It appears there are 2 wills presented for Mr. Patterson's estate. One dated March 15, 2009, and another dated February 3, 2023. I watched Michael's face drain of color. Patricia grabbed her lawyer's arm, whispering frantically. The more recent will supersedes the older document, the judge continued. Mr. Henderson, please read the current will into the record. Mr. Henderson stood. His voice was clear and strong as he read William's final wishes. The house, to me. The business, to me. All bank accounts and investments, to me. This can't be real, Patricia shouted, jumping to her feet. Miss Patterson, please control yourself, the judge warned. Their lawyer was frantically flipping through papers, sweat beading on his forehead. He clearly had no idea this will existed. Your Honor, Michael stammered, we were never told about any updated will. This has to be a mistake. The will is properly notarized and witnessed, the judge replied coldly. It was filed with this court 3 days ago, though it was executed over a year ago. I sat perfectly still, watching them unravel. Everything they'd taken, every cruel word, every moment they'd made me feel small and worthless, it was all about to boomerang back on them. Furthermore, the judge continued, Mr. Patterson included a detailed letter explaining his reasoning for these changes. She held up several typed pages. My heart pounded. William had written more than just the letter I'd found. He states that his children showed complete disregard for his wife's well-being and comfort. He also discovered financial irregularities in his business accounts, with unauthorized withdrawals linked to both Michael and Patricia Patterson. Patricia went white as a sheet. Michael looked like he might throw up. The letter indicates that Mr. Patterson removed his children from all business operations after discovering they had been stealing from company accounts for over 2 years. He provides bank records and documentation as evidence. So that was why William had been so quiet those last few months. He'd been building a case, protecting everything he'd worked for from his own children. This is impossible, Michael yelled. He never said anything about this. According to his letter, the judge replied, he gave you multiple opportunities to confess and make amends. You chose not to. Their lawyer was gathering his papers, clearly planning his escape from this disaster. The court finds the 2023 will valid and binding. Mrs. Arlene Patterson is the sole beneficiary of William Patterson's estate. Outside the courthouse, Michael and Patricia cornered me on the steps. Their faces were twisted with rage and disbelief. You planned this, Patricia screamed. You manipulated him when he was sick. He wasn't sick when he updated his will, I replied calmly. He was protecting what he built from people who were stealing from him. We never stole anything, Michael shouted. The bank records say otherwise, I said. Your father found them all. Patricia's lawyer had disappeared, leaving them to face this mess alone. Good, they deserve to be abandoned, the way they'd abandoned me. This isn't over, Michael threatened. We'll fight this. We'll prove you influenced him. I looked at both of them. These people who'd made my grief unbearable, who'd tried to erase me from the life I'd built with their father. You're right, I said quietly. This isn't over, it's just beginning. You wanted everything to go to his real family? Congratulations, it did. I walked away, leaving them screaming on the courthouse steps. For the first time since William died, I felt like I could breathe again. The house felt different when I walked back in. The locks had been changed, but Mr. Henderson had gotten the new keys from the locksmith. Everything was exactly as Michael and Patricia had left it. Half empty, violated, sad. But it was mine now, legally, officially, completely mine. I walked through each room, reclaiming the spaces they'd tried to steal. In the living room, I could put our photos back up. In the kitchen, I could use William's favorite coffee mug again. In his study, I could sit in his chair without feeling like a trespasser. The first thing I did was call a locksmith. New locks, new keys, new security system. No one would ever make me feel unwelcome in my own home again. Then I called William's business foreman, Charlie. He'd been running things since William got sick, wondering what would happen next. Mrs. Patterson, he said, relief obvious in his voice. Thank God. The crew was worried about their jobs. Everyone keeps their jobs, I assured him. William built something good there. We're going to keep it that way. What about Michael and Patricia? They've been calling, claiming they own the business now. They don't own anything, I said firmly, and if they contact you again, refer them to our lawyer. Over the next few weeks, Michael and Patricia tried everything. They hired a new lawyer to contest the will. They claimed William wasn't mentally competent when he changed it. They accused me of elder abuse, financial manipulation, and everything else they could think of. But William had been thorough. Medical records proved he was sharp as a tack when he updated his will. Bank records showed the unauthorized withdrawals they'd made from his business accounts. And their behavior after his death, documented in my journal and witnessed by half the family, proved exactly why he'd cut them out. Their new lawyer quit after 2 weeks. Apparently, they couldn't pay his fees. I hired a cleaning service to help restore the house. Room by room, I brought back the warmth and love they'd tried to strip away. New paint, new curtains, fresh flowers in every room. The house began to feel like home again. I found our wedding album in the garage, stuffed in a box marked trash. The photos were wrinkled but salvageable. I had them professionally restored and hung my favorite one in the living room. William and me dancing at our reception, both of us laughing like teenagers. Every morning, I sat in the kitchen with my coffee and his empty chair, reading the newspaper and planning my day. Just like we used to do together. 6 months later, I was working in the garden William and I had planted together when a car pulled into the driveway. Patricia got out, walking slowly toward me. She looked tired and older somehow. Hello, Arlene, she said quietly. I kept weeding, not trusting myself to speak civilly. I wanted to apologize, she continued, for everything we said and did after Dad died. We were grieving too, and we handled it badly. I sat back on my heels studying her face. You weren't grieving, Patricia, you were celebrating. I heard you laughing about it. Her cheeks flushed red. We were wrong, about a lot of things. Yes, you were. She shifted uncomfortably. The thing is, we're in some financial trouble. The lawyer bills and Michael lost his real estate license over some unrelated issues. We were wondering if maybe we could work something out. Some kind of family loan? I almost laughed. After everything they'd put me through, they wanted money. Your father tried to work something out with you for 2 years, I said, standing up and brushing dirt off my knees. You chose to steal from him instead. That was a misunderstanding. It was theft. And now you want me to reward you for it? Patricia's visit reminded me that some people never change, but it also reminded me how much I had changed. The timid woman who'd been intimidated by their lawyer's office was gone. In her place was someone who knew her worth, who refused to be diminished by other people's cruelty. I started volunteering at the library again, helping organize their literacy program. The work felt familiar and comforting, connecting me back to the person I'd been before grief nearly swallowed me whole. The business was thriving under Charlie's management. William had built something solid, and the crew respected me for keeping their jobs secure. Every month, I sent the profit reports to Mr. Henderson with a note. William would be proud. I also started a scholarship fund in William's name for kids who wanted to learn construction trades. He'd always believed in giving young people a chance to build something with their hands. Some evenings, I'd sit in his study with a glass of wine, reading or working on crossword puzzles. Sometimes I'd talk to him, updating him on the business or sharing something funny that happened that day. They're still your children, I told his empty chair one night. If they ever truly apologize and change their ways, I won't hold grudges forever. But they have to earn it first. A year after the will reading, I got a letter from Michael. Not a demand or a threat, just a letter. He was in therapy, trying to understand why he'd become the kind of person who'd steal from his own father. He was working at a hardware store, learning what honest work felt like again. He didn't ask for money or forgiveness. He just said he was sorry and that he finally understood why Dad had chosen me. You loved him for who he was, not what he had, he wrote. We never learned how to do that. I wrote back. Nothing dramatic, just acknowledgement that I'd received his letter and that I was glad he was getting help. It was a start. Patricia never apologized genuinely. She moved to another state, still bitter and convinced she'd been cheated somehow. Some people are too proud to learn from their mistakes. But Michael kept writing, short letters about his progress, his job, his slowly rebuilding life. Eventually, I invited him for coffee. We sat in William's favorite cafe, surrounded by memories, and had our first honest conversation in years. I don't expect you to forgive me, he said. I just wanted you to know, I understand now why Dad loved you so much. You made him happy in a way we never could. It wasn't forgiveness yet, but it was something better than hatred. 2 years after William's death, I finally cleaned out the last of his personal papers. In the very back of his desk drawer, I found one more letter addressed to me. This one was different, older, written shortly after we were married. My evening star, it began, using the nickname that always made me smile. I'm writing this on our 6-month anniversary. Watching you read in your favorite chair. You probably don't know how beautiful you look right now, how peaceful. You've given me something I thought I'd lost forever, the feeling of being home. I pressed the letter to my chest, tears streaming down my face. I want you to know that no matter what happens, you belong here. This is your home, your life, your place in the world. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. You are not a guest in my life. You are my life. He'd known. Somehow, he'd known his children might try to erase me, and he'd been preparing to protect me from the very beginning. I folded the letter carefully and put it with the others I'd saved. Then I sat down at his desk and wrote my own letter to my younger self, the scared woman who'd thought love was too risky after losing her first husband. Take the chance, I wrote. Love him completely. Trust that he'll take care of you, even when he's gone. You are not disposable. You are not invisible. You matter. These days my life is quiet but full. The house blooms with flowers William and I planted together. The business continues to thrive, employing good people who take pride in their work. I've made new friends through my volunteer work, and old friends have rallied around me in ways that still surprise me. Michael visits sometimes. We're building something new, not the relationship he had with his father, but something honest between two people who both loved William in different ways. He's been sober for 8 months and working steady. Progress. I still set 2 coffee cups out every morning, out of habit. But now, instead of feeling sad about the empty chair, I tell William about my plans for the day. The scholarship fund has helped 12 kids so far. The literacy program is expanding to 3 new locations. Small victories, but meaningful ones. The doorbell rings as I'm finishing this story. It's probably my neighbor, coming to borrow sugar or share gossip about the new family moving in down the street. Normal, everyday life, continuing in all its beautiful, ordinary ways. I'm not the scared woman who sat in that lawyer's office 2 years ago. I'm not the invisible stepmother they tried to erase. I'm Arlene Patterson, and this is my home, my life, my story, and it's just getting started.